Hello Gunters. Next week we are going to know when the next title update 3 will release, and with it the possibility to upgrade every gunlance to level 8. I already did compare the long and normal gunlances that are pretty easy to compare because they are based almost only on raw because their main attacks are sweeps and slams. Wide is very different in that the bread and butter combo involves poking, and elemental damage suddenly becomes a lot more important. How important, you may ask? If you watched my previous video about elemental damage, I reached the conclusion that when comparing raw and elemental with purple sharpness, 100% affinity and critical boost 3, there is a parity of raw and element when hitting a 50 raw hit zone and a 20 elemental one. I mean that under those circumstances every single point of element will go towards your damage as if you raised a point of raw when attacking with pokes. On a much more common 10 hit zone the proportion would be half of it. This is a very lot of damage. Take the finest example of Almudrine Gunlance. It has 75 base water element. If we add the water attack 5 skill for a 20% extra elemental plus 4 points and augment for element for 5 times and 18 extra points, we end with a total of 115 points of element. So this is equivalent to poking with 115 extra raw. A 35% more damage. Even at a 10 hit zone this is still worth the equivalent of 50 raw. Heck yeah! And this means that when poke shelling elemental gunlances put pure raw ones to shame, because something like a Diablos gunlance has to worth with just 360 raw. So comparing wide gunlances should be only that? No, really it is a lot more complicated than all this at the current situation, because Sunbreak introduced reverse blast dash that has also explained the previous video about the developer challenge. It is the highest damage combo of wide raw wise, and pokes are a lot behind in the current meta. So until the moment the title update 3 releases and we have all the new armors, skills and weapons, I will be totally unable to really tell what it is going to be the undisputed champion of wide gunlance. Still, with the data I have said, I can more or less try to trim the best gunlances to have ready for the next update, so you can start gathering the material now. Just to not make you waste any materials, just have these ready. In case somehow go in an unexpected direction like how sneak attack was introduced, you can always use the materials to meld talismans. Since they are a lot, I'm going straight to showcase the table. I have marked in yellow these elemental gunlances where I can't decide which one is the best for an element. For the element formula I'm considering 5 points in the proper elemental skill and as much affinity you can get with 8 points after paying for the shell upgrade and the rampage decoration upgrade. This translates that weapons with rampage level 2 or more get 18 points and those without, 6 points. These make some gunlances elements a lot worse than it looks like on paper. Usually we have two types of wide gunlance, those with a heckload of raw and those with a metric ton of affinity. Due to how hard is get enough skills in gunlance, I personally favor affinity to make builds more easy to do, but I can't negate that the ones with higher base raw has more potential, and if in the next update we finally get critical boost or weakness exploit level 4 decorations, these are going to be a lot more viables. I just can't decide which is the best raw gunlance because all the high raw options of 350 and 360 have big handicaps. Diablos has negative affinity and no slots to use. Garen is awesome but needs protective polish to make use of the pixel of white or lose a 10% of your melee. And the 350 options also have bad affinity. I'm not deciding until the update releases. Elemental wise, the weapon with the very best elemental potential is Almudrine's, that also is a nice weapon itself. For the dragon element, Shagaru Gunlance is practically Torsi Pyre Gunlance in wide form. Same raw but 35 affinity, only held back by the lack of slots. As the same reasoning goes to Astalos. I think these are the safest elemental gunlances. For poison we have two good options. It is a bit sad that both are penalized by having to spend 4 points in getting a level 2 rampage deco. This hurts more Espinos Gunlance because it has a lot less base poison. Stat-wise it is almost a tie. Espinos has more affinity in purple while Puke has 20 more raw and better slots. But if you are going to poison, there is not much to think about. Pick the one with almost 3 times more. I will need to recalculate how good the poison is once the update is out and have all the parameters. The main problem of poison is that the more health a monster has, the worse it is, and I'm not sure if it can fill a niche. Finally, mention to the shell gunlance that simply is awesome for a sleep weapon. Usually sleep and paralysis weapons have huge backdraws to compensate for it, but this one has super high raw, access to purple and acceptable slots. Considering that you can add status with the augmentations, this is no doubt the best status gunlance in the game, and you should get at least 2 activations per hunt. I would ever consider doing a bombardier build with this because you can get your bombs doing over 700 by 2 damage plus your wake up attack, while poison on average only does like 1600 damage. Yeah, it takes time to set up everything and you never will see a speedrunner doing this, but this is a huge chance of big free damage. Place 2 bombs, get a palico, place fireworks, and then use the combo of wyvern fire, greater than bullet barrage, and the monster is saying goodbye to several thousands of health. I'm just realizing all this while writing this, so it is an exciting idea I'm going to totally explore once the update drops. This has been at the end a very long video over a white table. As always, my recommended crafts are these on green. I have great hopes for the elemental and status gunlances, with Garang Golem being good for shelling based builds because of the slots, and also for clapping builds for the high raw if you can handle the pixel of white. But I would even consider sacrificing slots and 20 raw for the sleep potential of the shell gunlance. Would you do that trade-off? White is no doubt the shell type that is going to get the biggest buff from the new shell levels. There are so many good options for every playing style that I can't just look at this and say with a straight face this is the undisputed meta, unlike with the long and wide ones. Which one is your candidate? As always, let me know below in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the hunt.